Hi, so I'm going to be making a video today about couples' sensuality experiences. This video is a follow-up to the one that I did previously, which was I think almost 2 weeks ago. It was on the topics of sensuality, pleasure, intimacy, and sexuality, relationships. And in that video, it's a good video to watch because I did this really kind of broad sweeping of these topics and how they, really all of the contextual threads that feed into this part of ourselves and how we relate to it in ourselves and certainly how we relate to it with other people. And so I think it's a really good idea to check out that video because it's important to understand what are all the threads of context that influence, inspire this part of ourselves, and how does that play out in situations with ourselves, of course, and also with other people. It's important to understand because once you start really looking at it all like a web, for me, sexuality, the topic of sexuality is in this very, very center of the web of the human experience because our sexual energy is where all humans came from. And all of this human world that we've created came from humans. So if it came from humans and if humans came from our sexual energy, then sexuality is where everything comes from. So it's the center of the web. This is just my opinion. And so it's really important to understand all the different threads of context that feed into it. And so in that previous video, I was going into cultural, societal, historical threads. And so in this video, where I want to go is, so I ended that video at a point where I was going to start talking about couples' sensuality and sharing these experiences together in different ways that could look. Time ran out, so here I am doing this video. Okay, so hi and welcome to everybody joining, and thank you so much for your time in spending it with me in this way. I really appreciate it. I know there's a million other ways to enjoy your time, so thank you so much for being here with me, and especially on such a powerful topic of couple sensuality and intimacy and relationships and sexuality. I mean, it's a powerful topic because, again, like I just said, I just illustrated this whole kind of perspective of why sexuality is at the center of the web of human experience. So there's that, but it's also a really powerful topic because for a lot of people, there's just a lot of sensitivities and vulnerabilities involved with this part of themselves. It tends to be it's common for it to be sensitive and vulnerable with partners too. And so before I dive into the content of this video, what I want to do is if I could just invite all of us that are here live on the call and all of us that are just listening to it, if I can invite us to all be within ourselves as if we are all participating in a circle here and we're sharing experience and we're, cracking open some layers that could be potentially vulnerable, sensitive, triggering, and I acknowledge that. And so what I want to do here in this call is create a space that feels safe and secure and held for those parts of anybody that could be watching, those parts that could be potentially sensitive and vulnerable and tender and maybe even hurt, maybe, there's just a lot that comes into this part of ourselves that I acknowledge is sensitive content. So I just want us to metaphorically, kind of gather around the circle together and just come with an open heart and open mind. I have some notes I'm going to be referencing down here to keep me on track because this is a really powerful topic and I want to just make sure I get to all the important points. And I'm going to be speaking a little bit quickly in this video because there is quite a lot that I want to get to, and I just really want to like give you a lot to work with and potentially enjoy and be inspired by, potentially, be helpful and supportive and insightful, potentially be empowering and liberating. Okay. So thank you again for your attention here, and I'm going to get going into this topic. So at the end of that last video that I was referencing at the beginning of this video, where I left off, I was talking a lot about genitals and how that this is a very, very powerful part of our bodies, and it's an extremely powerful way that we connect with other humans. And that I wanted to go into sharing some ideas around how couples can enjoy sensual experiences together. I'm just here to like plant seeds. I'm not here, you're welcome, you're more than welcome to take anything that I say here and just use, like, kind of follow it, exactly, but like otherwise I'm just so happy to just be here to like plant seeds and inspire, and really encourage you to tap into your own creative energy and see what you are inspired by, and potentially what you would want to share with your partner. Or if you're not coupled, there's plenty of ways to enjoy intimacy, sensuality, sexuality, and relationship with yourself. And so perhaps it's inspiring on those levels as well, and kind of gives you maybe some inspiration for when you do find yourself coupled with someone. Okay, here we go. Okay, so I spoke to this piece a lot in the last video about the importance of context, specifically for women. Men too, sure, not quite as much. Women, definitely. It's really important that women have a bridge of going from their like daily grind mental mode into like sensual, sexy time with their partner. So important, because that daily grind mental mode for women, I'm not saying for every single woman alive, but I am saying for most women, it's full on. Like, women are multitasking master magicians that are capable of balancing and harmonizing so many different balls in the air at the same time. It's pretty amazing, actually. It's kind of a superpower. And at the same time, it's really easy for women just to get kind of stuck in that mode. Especially if there isn't any kind of bridge for her going from that mode into like, so say that mode is like, that's like her work life, and that's, maybe her work life is to be taking care of the home or the children. But a lot of women take care of the home, the children, and they work. And they're coupled, and they're, they have important personal connections, and maybe they have interests, and, their life is so full. And women manage so much, and typically, the home life part, there's quite a lot within just that realm of life for a woman to manage, and, making it as nice and pleasant as she can for herself and her partner and her family. So it's really helpful, I think even essential, for most women to have that bridge of one mode into the other mode, because it's so easy as women, when we're stuck in that grind, and if our partner wants to share connection with us, physical connection, it's really common, very easy, for women to still be on that mode mentally, even if physically they're doing stuff with their partner. And it's one of the biggest contributors to why women have challenges orgasming, because they're not connected to that part of themselves. In their mind, they're still thinking about like, okay, what am I cooking for dinner? wait, did I pay that bill? Oh my gosh, I still need to run this errand. It's really easy for her to still be kind of taking care of all that up here in her head. And so, yeah, I can't even speak enough to the importance of this. And so also along with this, I'll say, it really, really helps, like as a way to create that bridge. It really, really helps when there's a date planned. Like there's a set time and a place or like planned ahead to where a woman can like mentally prepare herself of like, okay, everything I'm going to do leading up to this point, and then I'm going to create my bridge for myself. Women, we have to create it for ourselves. We can't rely on other people to create it for us. So this is really about us like fully owning our needs and taking care of ourselves, and then communicating that to our partner. Hey, this is what I need. If we're wanting to enjoy this part of our connection more, this is what I need. And how do we work together as a team to create that for me so that I get what I need, and then I can come to you with like all my beautiful feminine energy and just shower you with all that goodness. And I mean, that's certainly what your partner wants. So if he's smart, he will help you. And with the right communication skills, and if he's invited into it in a loving way that feels like you're a team and he's doing such a good job helping you, he's going to be down for that. And he's especially going to love the outcome of it. So yeah, planning ahead. I've had clients in the past, they've talked about like, why do I need to plan ahead? Like, she should just want it. She should just be ready. Like, I'm ready. Like, I'm always attracted to her and she's not attracted to me enough. And it's like, it's understandable why men would feel that way. Mostly it's men that feel that way. It's understandable, but it's not realistic. Because for most couples, if you think back to before you were living together and before you got married and before you meet a family, you lived in separate places, and in order to see each other, you'd have to use your phone to contact each other and make a special plan. And leading up to that special plan, both of you are taking care of your business, you're resting, you're working out, you're showered, you're all like fresh and clean, and you're like, you feel great and you're ready to hang out. You're ready to enjoy each other's company, right? So obviously domestic partners don't quite have that anymore. And especially domestic partners that have children, it's really important to set that time ahead. Again, it's, not only for the reasons I'm saying, but it also just helps to like remember what it's like in that dating time when it's like you haven't seen the person in a few days and you're really excited and you feel really good or hopefully you do because you got all your shit done before going to meet up with them, and they're kind of like your reward, for a job well done and taking care of yourself. And that's how I see it anyways. And so yeah, it's just, in a sense, it's almost like you have to bring that into your domestic partnership. And so planning ahead helps with that, and it helps to build the anticipation. It's kind of nice. I'm not saying here that every single sensual or sexual and erotic experience with your partner should be planned. I'm not saying that. I am saying that what keeps it alive, what keeps it all afloat, is to have definitely sometimes that are planned, and maybe even like regularly occurring, and then be open to spontaneous connecting, right? I mean, you don't want every single time to be a plan, but if you don't plan it, it's also likely not to happen, right? I mean, how fast does a week, 2 weeks, 2 months goes by and you're like, oh my God, we haven't even had our special time together. Happens very easily. I get it. And so planning ahead is really, really helpful. And it's nice to have that special time to look forward to. It builds the anticipation, which is, I think, a huge part of foreplay. Foreplay begins outside the bedroom. By the way, foreplay is literally, it's happening. So after you have sex and you're happy with that, or hopefully you're happy with that, foreplay begins in the very next moment, and all of the small moments leading up to the next time. it's like foreplay and like, you know, building that sexual energy and building that chemistry together is literally happening in every single interaction from one orgasm to another. It's true. Again, this might be more true for women, because we require a lot in order to feel safe and secure and stable and available and rested and happy. We require quite a lot, actually. But it's part of the women's beauty, you know, our complexity. It's part of what makes us beautiful and powerful and alluring and confusing as well to men. We're like this. We're like the great mystery that they just hope to solve one day, and hopefully have a really good time along the journey of doing so. Anyhow, so moving on, setting the space. So context, planning ahead, setting the space, super, super important. I don't know. Not everybody needs this. I certainly do. And I know a lot of women that do. The space, the environment is really important. It's helpful to have a physical space that feels inspiring to have these kinds of experiences in, you know. At one point, like all the way up till COVID, I was living a nomadic lifestyle for 6 years. I stayed in so many rentals and homes, and oh my gosh, over 6 years living out of a suitcase in one place to another. And so I've just seen a lot of how people set up their space out there in the world, and I'll just sum it up to say most people's spaces are not inspiring to connect like sensually and sexually with another person. There's like, yeah. So, okay, you know, candles and flowers and comfy pillows and blankets, essential oils, you know, fruits, maybe like some wine or like a drink or herbal elixir and a really beautiful floral tea of some kind, you know, maybe some chocolate, some silk, some furs. I mean, you know, you can just get creative with this stuff, and that's part of the fun. And, you know, set it up in the space. And it's kind of nice that things are already set up, you know, and you can just kind of, you know, click a button and have like lights turn on and, you know, make it easy. Because the thing is, you want to make it easy, because if it's not easy, you're probably not going to do it. So if it's all set up in such a way, and then where you could just like flip a few, you know, click a few buttons, and then like the lights come on and the dimmers and the nice music, you know, it just makes it really easy to slip into that zone together. And again, especially for domestic partnerships, and especially that have kids, like, you need to make it easy, but it needs to feel fun too. So I've been in one of Esther Perel's trainings for the last couple of years. It's been amazing, to say the least. And she says this thing over and over that, I'm going to paraphrase it here, that in order to want sex, it has to be sex worth wanting. And I think that's really true, because, you know, we want more of the things that we like, right? And so part of what's going to help us like and experience, and again, this is probably going to be mostly for women, although like I think it's going to impact women most, although I know some men are sensitive to space. Some men definitely appreciate having a nice space to be inspired by. Other men have like no connected to space at all. Quick side note, in any little facet of this part of oneself, and certainly in connection with a partner, well, actually only in connection with a partner for this piece. If there are any areas that you as one of the people in the partner would like to see develop more in your relationship, and if you kind of step back and you just ask yourself like, okay, who between us is the most like developed in this part of themselves, you know? So like, for instance, I'm just gonna like example, like if I were in a partnership and if I wanted to have more sensual experiences with my partner, I would, you know, it would be really effective and efficient. Actually, if I kind of stood back and said, well, who out of the two of us is more into this stuff? And if I say me, then I have to understand that I'm going to be the one to lead us down this path, not him. Because if I'm the one that's more developed in this area of myself and he's not so much, why would I imagine that it should be on him to lead me? It doesn't work that way. Really in any aspect of relationship, it's like if you're the one that's more developed in this part, if you're the one that's desiring more and wanting more, then it's gonna need to be you that takes the reins and creates a space and, you know, kind of guides the process. So that's really important to understand, and I think that's a really big part as women of us fully claiming our power, is being able to guide in that way. And so it's not only like in creating space, but I mean ultimately, and where I'm getting to in this video, it's like ultimately in how to love us, you know, helping guide the men in our lives and everybody really. But in my work, I work mostly, it's just masculine and feminine dynamics. I tend to work mostly with heterosexual couples. And so, sorry, I'm getting like kind of tongue tied. Let me stop really quick and get a sip of something. Hold on. Sorry. Okay, better. Yeah, so I think that there's a really big piece here for women and the topic of connecting to our power in relationship to the men in our lives. It's so important that we know how to guide the men more and more effectively and efficiently, and how to love us and take care of us, how to show up for us. What I've seen is very, very clear is that men are so desperate to understand what we need and what makes us happy and like what can they do, and they desperately want to know, but they can't know if they're not receiving the right guidance. And if we women are not yet quite giving the guidance that's actually helpful for them and effective, then we might not get too far in that path. And that's why we call in supports, professional supports like me to help support that journey for the woman to understand more about herself and what are her needs, what are her wants, how does she understand them, communicate, express, how does she work with her partner to make adjustments to support her, and ultimately so that her growth and empowerment in this way comes into the relationship and really supports that part of the connection. Okay, moving on. As far as setting the space, highly suggest getting a massage table. They fold up really nice and neat. You can put it like under the bed or in the closet or something when you're not using it. It takes like 2 minutes to set up and put it all together. Highly recommend. I just feel like, number one, it's nice to have more places than just the bed for enjoying sexy time together. Number two, you can enjoy all kinds of things on the massage table that you can't quite on a bed, and you can also enjoy things in a more comfortable way than you can on a bed. Like, for instance, just simply giving a massage. It's a lot more comfortable for the giver to give a massage to when the person's on a table rather than the bed. And the way that it goes with massage is that when the giver is the most comfortable, the massage is going to be a lot better. So if the massage isn't, if the person giving the massage is not comfortable, then the person getting the massage is going to not experience as good of an experience as if, in the case that the giver is really comfortable. So that's why the table is really nice. And it also really clearly puts one person into a position of giving and one person into a position of receiving. And I think that that's really fun, supportive, nourishing, intimate, beautiful. and, pleasurable for couples to enjoy together, rather than, I think it's important, like along all these lines, like when it comes to sexuality in our partnerships, I think it's important to just spend some time kind of broadening what that looks like in the connection. I'll say that in my experience, certainly, and in pretty much every single woman I've talked to and worked with, it's very, very common for this part of the connection to get a bit routine. It's almost like especially for men, it's almost kind of like they find the thing that works and then they just keep doing it over and over. Because, right, like how their minds work, it's like very linear. They're like, okay, great, it works, and as a woman, it's like, amazing, it works. And, but what happens over time is that it's like, when it's like the same formula over and over, like, okay, we're going to start here, and then we're going to do this, and he's going to do that. And then it's going to go like this, and then it's done, and it's like, even if it's a great formula that's highly pleasurable, enjoyable, works every time, with orgasm, which, by the way, isn't always the most important thing, but let's just, it's definitely really amazing as well. So it's definitely not the most important thing. I'll just re-echo that and come back around to it in a bit. But part of why I'm even doing this video is to help inspire this kind of consideration to broadening all the ways that couples can enjoy sexually together. And I mean, there's also this other piece that influences, which is just like, because most people are so busy just trying to live the best life possible, that a lot of people don't really find themselves with extra time and energy to consider these things. And at the same time, we have to be really careful about the stories that we tell ourselves when it comes to any aspect of life. Like, ultimately, if there's any aspect of life that we want a more fulfilling outcome with, then it's really important that we are paying attention to the stories we're telling ourselves that are ultimately telling us why we can't accomplish the thing that we want. There's all kinds of ways that we self-sabotage, and it's just really important to understand that sometimes those are actually the programs running underneath of like why we decide to do things or not do things. So massage table, coming back around. Yeah, I highly recommend getting that, because who wouldn't want to come home to like seeing like a massage table and a whole room set up, and a partner just like waiting to like invite their lover in and to give to them. I mean, who wouldn't want that? That would be amazing, right? We're getting to more of those details in a minute. So part of what's nice about planning ahead as well is like you can even plan like, and part of like, which is the bridge from going into like that like overdrive mental mode into sensual kind of sexy mode with your partner, is the whole like getting ready process. Take a shower, do some grooming, put on some nice smelling fragrances, put some nice oils on your skin, and do your hair, maybe a little bit of makeup, maybe put something nice on, make sure the clothing is really soft and pleasurable to the senses, make sure that it's really easy to move around in, and just comfortable, so like a silk robe, for instance, like maybe there's even like the woman has her items that she likes to wear for these experiences, and maybe it's like the man has his items, maybe they have their different attire that they both end up getting, or maybe those are gift ideas they can give each other, hint hint. So that they can like slip into their sensual kind of beautiful clothing of some kind, something that they're gonna really like, something that they know their partner's gonna really like. It's just all part of the process of shifting from just like that daily grind multitask mode to sexy pleasure time with your partner. I mean, there's a number of ways that this bridge that I'm talking about can be created, and again, I'm just here to plant seeds and give ideas. Okay, moving along. Yeah, part of that planning ahead is going to be, so if there are responsibilities that need to be taken care of for, especially again, the woman, to be able to lighten her load and free up her mind so that her presence and her attention, her energy can actually drop down and connect so that it doesn't stay and can connect deeper as well. Otherwise, if responsibilities have yet to be tended to, she's just going to be busy, busy, busy mind, and it's really going to be hard for her to access her pleasure in her lower centers when she's got so much going on up here. So, thinking about things like childcare, or what are ways that it could, what are ways that can free up her energy, or the energy of the couple, would it make sense, for instance, instead of making dinner at home, does it make sense to go out to dinner? Does it make sense to order in delivery or go get takeout or something, what are the ways that the game plan ahead of time can happen in order to make it feel easy? Again, it has to feel easy, or else it's probably not going to happen, right? And with this stuff, I'll also say really quick that I'm ultimately using this video as a way to just give you as many ideas and inspirations and as much guidance as possible on all this. What I don't want is for you as a receiver to feel overwhelmed, whoa, this is a lot, because it's not important, needed, or expected that you make all these massive adjustments in your life in order to accommodate what I'm saying. The best mode for most people is going to be small steps and adjustments over time. And practically speaking, it's probably going to need that. I mean, most people don't have the bandwidth to make big changes all at once. So, slow and steady wins the race, and makes it a lot easier to navigate too when you're, if you're going, for instance, if you are a woman who wants to start connecting to more of your own power in this part of yourself, and then from that point start guiding the man in your life to love you in even greater ways. That means that you are going to engage your partner in a process of transition. And transitions are typically the most challenging times of life. We got one foot on the stable, the familiar, the thing that we know, our comfort zone, and then we've got the other foot stepping into this new territory. We don't know the roadmap yet. We don't know how it goes, and it's unstable, right? And so it needs to be done with a lot of care and kindness and compassion and sensitivity and warmth and inviting, right? And you want as much as possible for that process of transition to feel like it's teamwork. It's not one person dragging someone else along down the path, right? It's you're a team, and ideally every step along that way feels like you're a team. And I'll acknowledge that even to get to this point as a couple, it might even be a whole process as a couple just to get to the point of having experiences together, creating experiences together like this, what I'm about to start talking about. There might need to be a process that's engaged with around how do we both feel about this part of life and connection ourselves, and are there ways that we want it to feel more fulfilling? And if so, then what? I mean, even that for, I think, most couples actually is, can be a very sensitive process to engage with. Understandably. I'm going to circle back to where I very first started at the beginning of this call. This area of life for a lot of people is very tender, and that needs to be understood, and the sensitivities to, if typically one partner feels more tender and sensitive and vulnerable than the other, and it's really important that part of what is going to make a couple a team on this whole area of their life is if the sensitivities, the vulnerabilities, if they're known, if they're expressed, if they're shared, if they're understood by both people, so that as process is engaged, as transitions happen, as experiments start to happen and you're starting to explore together and, you know, like what's possible. If all the vulnerabilities or sensitivities are known between the couple, then, and it goes on all sides, you know, even people that are maybe the more confident one in this part of themselves in the connection, like, they're still going to have sensitivities too. It's a sensitive topic for everybody because, I mean, ultimately, we didn't get educated on this part of ourselves, right? I mean, there's like, like our sensual, pleasurable, you know, sexual, erotic part of ourselves and like intimacy and relationships. Like, luckily we live in a day and age where you can easily seek these trainings out and you can, you know, everybody has access to learning more about themselves in these ways, like, you know, at the click of a button. That's amazing. And at the same time, like, most of us certainly did not grow up with that kind of learning and support and encouragement and education. So what you have is ultimately a whole world full of adults that have never really learned about this part of themselves. And that in itself brings up a lot of sensitivities for people, because people tend to feel embarrassed and awkward and even shame around, you know, topics like, well, I don't really know what I want and I don't really know how to say that to this person, and I'm kind of shy and I don't know how to, you know, what to do about that. This is all very, very, very common. And anyways, the more that this kind of stuff is talked about and shared and understood and supported within the partnership, the more support the partnership is going to have as it starts, you know, engaging with like a process of transition from what is to what more is possible. So going down my notes here. So going on along with all of what I'm just saying, to kind of like wrap that piece up, it's really important also to be sensitive and tuned into like, what are the partner's needs? What's their wants? What's their availability? And so these are all topics of conversation that could be engaged with, you know, before, like, you know, setting the date and like starting to experiment and explore, you know, within the realm of like what more is possible. It's really helpful to engage in dialogues around like, what are your needs? What are your wants? What's your availability? And by the way, that conversation in itself is going to need to repeat itself over and over and over, because we've got women in the mix and we are not like I said at the beginning of the video, we are beautifully complex and we are changing all the time. And part of that is because the way that our hormonal cycle works, we reset every 28 days, and every 7 days we move into a different hormonal phase. And that very much influences how we feel in our bodies and our energy, how available we feel, how energetic we feel. So it's really important for couples where there's at least one woman in the couple for this to be a topic that gets checked in on, like maybe every single time you know, you want to plan for something, you know. It's really important that everybody actually has the energy and the space and the bandwidth. And then it's also, on that note, important to really just like, if you're gonna engage with any of this and explore it and experiment, then just really, it's helpful when you can just keep your mind really broad and open to like what the outcome actually looks like, and be open to the idea that maybe it's different every single time. That's really helpful, because if there's this kind of like really rigid way that the couple falls into, like how it has to look every time, it's not really going to meet the needs of the woman, if that's the case. And what we're talking here, I really wanted to focus most of this video on women's pleasure, because when the woman's happy, everyone's happy. And ultimately, like, if the whoever the partner is, They certainly want to make their woman happy, and especially in the bedroom. So, for instance, like, maybe she's had a really like exhausting week, maybe she's at a time during her monthly cycle that just when her energy's not very high, and she doesn't really feel like she's in her most like sexiest mode, it's good to tune in and like really engage in a conversation each time. Like, what are you needing now? What are you wanting now? What's your availability now? And then just to allow the experience to unfold within the limitations that she's just already naturally occurring in. Again, this is part of what makes it easy. If it starts to feel hard, it's a good sign, actually. If any of this ever starts to feel hard, it's a good sign that an adjustment needs to be made and some pressure needs to be released somewhere in order for the woman to feel more ease. Okay, I'm just going down my list here, making sure I get to all the points. Sorry, I have to stop and take a drink again. And cheers to all of you. Thank you again so much for being here and exploring more of this beautiful topic with me. Thank you for trusting me with such a beautiful and powerful topic, and I hope this is helpful in some way. All right. One of the fun parts of creating these experiences is consideration and creativity. You get to like consider your partner. What would they want? What would they enjoy? What would they like? What would make your partner feel special and thought of and cared for and loved and appreciated? Maybe you even have a little journal or something that is specifically for ideas for these kinds of times you want to spend together. It is actually helpful to have something to write all of it down, and it's fun to let yourself kind of daydream and fantasize of what's possible, and then just have a list to reference for future times. I don't know about you, but for me, it's like if I don't write it down, it doesn't happen. My whole life gets written down in one way or another. So, yeah, it's helpful because it's like in the moments where you want it and then you're trying to recall, it's just, it might not come back to you. So it's good to have a place to put all your fun daydreams and fantasies. And let's see. Oh, and then, yeah, within that, that's also part of what helps to keep the experience continuously kind of like novel, right? Like when you have like an ongoing list of different ideas, then it means that you have a lot to pull from over time and have some different experiences together, right? And oh my gosh, I can't believe that the hour is almost up. Okay, I'm gonna just kind of breeze through all this. We'll see how long I can get through, how much I can get through. All right. Part of creating the bridge from the busy multitasking mode into sexy mode. Part of that with your partner is like, okay, so you've planned ahead, you set a date, you've created the space, you've tended yourself, and so now you're meeting in the space. Okay, so here's what I suggest you do once you both drop into that space together. I think there's even like another bridge that can create it of like, okay, this is all the bridge just to get us from like normal life to here right now, and now we're here together, and let's now create another bridge together that's between us, a bridge of intimacy, a bridge of connection between us. And I always really think it's a great idea to start energetically and then go into the physical and then the sexual and then the physical, the sensual, the sexual. Personally, because those are like kind of like if you were to imagine like all the layers of a flower, and you've got like the energetic layers out here to stimulate and enjoy together, and then you got like the physical and the sensual, and then in the center you got like the sexuality, like sexual aspects of connection. And that's just how I personally, how it works for me, and that's how I have guided couples to work with each other as well. And so what's the energetic? Well, starting with meditation. Maybe just put on like a 5 or 10 minute guided meditation on your phone or something. I think that's a beautiful way. And also there's certain types of partner breathing that you can do together, or any style of breath work. You know, breathing together actually really, really syncs you up energetically. And so meditating together, breathing together, and then doing eye gazing exercises together. All these 3 things, I'll just say, greatly enhance the experience of connection for the couple when they're making love. If you can be together at this present, and you're breathing together, and you are able to look into each other's eyes while you're making love, not like necessarily like the whole time. I mean, if you want to, you know, you can go into some pretty deep spaces there together, but at least for like a good amount of the time, you know, or however much you're comfortable with. All I'm saying is that if you have all those involved in the experience, it's going to very much deepen the quality of intimacy and presence that you have together, which is ultimately, from what I can tell, the main thing that most people want more of in their sexual connection with their partner is like a deeper quality of presence and intimacy. I feel like even more so than people's feeling of need to have an orgasm is the need to feel more deeply connected and intimate with their partner when they're having sex. So, you know, having some kind of experience at the beginning like that, where you can like drop in together and then connect, is really good. And then from there, say after you do the energetic stuff, what I like to do is like, I'll have my partner, I'm single most of the time, but like sometimes I find someone to enjoy like that with for a little bit. And you know, then moving into more of like the physical and sensual, so like giving some nice touches, playing with hair, maybe some soft feather touch. You know, maybe that's a good time to start, you know, trade a little bit of massage. And then going into the giving and receiving part. And then, gosh, this is really, you guys, this is like more of like a 2 or 3 hour kind of video, like what this really needs to be. But I'm just gonna kind of continue breezing through it, because I think these Instagram live calls cut off after an hour. Is that right? And I don't have much time left. So going into, this is where it gets real good. I mean, it's all really good, I think. To me it is. It's all fun. It's all like a form of play to me. So, okay. So you've done all the things, you know, and now you're all connected and synced up, and now you're there, right? All right. I would suggest, like, one way that this could go is you guys decide who's going to be the giver, who's going to be the receiver. And, you know, you play that out in whatever way you want. For instance, like maybe there's only going to be one giver that night. Maybe there's going to be 2, you know, like for instance, maybe you guys will switch. It doesn't always need to be, okay, I do you, then you do me, you know, like actually it's quite nice when someone just gets to be given to and someone just gets to give, and then like that's just it, and you just wrap it up and you just enjoy that goodness together, you know. It doesn't always have to be like this kind of transactional, like, okay, I did that for you, so it's your turn to do the thing for me, you know. I think it's really important that we don't fall into that, actually. I'm so sorry, guys, for like the stuff with my phone, and for some reason I feel like especially tongue-tied today on the video, but at the same time I'm like, I think you get it. Okay. So having the receiver lay on the bed and the giver, or the massage table, and the giver sitting in between the person's legs, facing them, with whoever the receiver is. Like, I would say, like, whoever the giver is, sit either like cross-legged or like with your legs out somehow, and then put the receiver's legs over yours so that their genitals are exposed to you and they're laying down on their back. Maybe maybe their skin is completely exposed, or maybe there's just like, maybe they have their beautiful robe or whatever, their kind of little negligee on, or maybe they just have this like super cozy blanket over them, or whatever, for that person to feel like comfortable and relaxed, and also connected to something sensual and pleasurable. There's like ways to, I would say, like, if in the check-in moment where the woman is being checked in with, of like, hey, how's your energy? What are you available for? Do you, in that topic, what are you available for? There should be some pretty explicit guidance around, I am or I am not available for my genitals to be stimulated sexually. I am or I am not available for my sexual energy at all to be stimulated. Maybe sometimes I do, but maybe other times I just want my sensual energy to be really stimulated and enjoyed. I'll say on this piece, this is a really important piece that I think men are learning a lot about, which is that, especially in domestic partnerships, and especially in partnerships that have kids, the woman, it's really, really important for the woman to receive from her partner, sometimes in ways that are just strictly energetic, physical, and sensual, without always having to go into the sexual sphere of connection. It's really important. It's important for her to be given to in that way, without always on the other side of it having her guy there like, all right, hope you still have energy. It's because the thing is, like, for women, what ends up building up over time is like, oh, he's massaging me now, but I know where this is going to go. He's going to massage, but then he's going to want to take it somewhere else. And I don't love that every time he gives me a massage, he automatically assumes that that's where it's going to go now, and like the woman, it starts to make the offering of the massage feel transactional. It starts to make it feel like, oh, you're not doing this just to give to me and make things easier for me. You're doing this so that you could get something. And it's just important. It's subtle, but it's felt, and it doesn't feel good. And women can feel it, and it's part of what actually has women like retract when their man is trying to lean in for intimacy. If she has not been given to, if all those outer layers of the petal have not been stimulated and enjoyed for a while, and if they're kind of hungry, they're thirsty, if those parts of her haven't been taken care of, it's gonna be pretty hard for her to just let things go straight to the center of that intimacy flower, especially like for the long haul, right? So this is really important, and just to allow the changing cycles of a woman's availability. I don't know what is going on with, like, I feel especially stuttery in my speaking today, but anyhow, just gonna keep rolling. It needs to be a part of the ongoing conversation, and it needs to be a part of what makes things, feel like, what creates it to be a different experience each time. And that's ultimately going to be good for everyone involved, So, okay, moving along. Because I think I have to start wrapping this up soon, I'm going to just leave with like the most important two parts. If you're the giver, it's really best if you refrain from going straight to the obvious first and focusing on like the obvious pleasure centers for your partner. Instead, what I suggest is taking your sweet ass time to just slowly stimulate all the different curves and all the different nooks and crannies and all the different textures of skin, and, you know, to really, you know, take your partner on a journey, you know, like don't just, it's not about focusing on the destination. That is not the focus. Take your partner on a journey of an experience, whether it only stays in the energetic or whether it goes from the energetic to physical or into the sensual or across the whole spectrum into the sexual. Whatever it is, like just focus on offering your partner a journey of an experience. And oh gosh, there's a whole, so where this is naturally leading off, and actually this is gonna be like a whole huge topic too. Yeah, I wanted to go into like the vocabulary of pleasure and like how to articulate like what are the needs, what are the wants, how to guide. Oh gosh, it's too much to fit into 1 minute. Okay, so I have to wrap this up, unfortunately. But fortunately, I mean, this was great. An hour goes by really, really fast. I hope this was helpful or inspiring or insightful, supportive to you in some way in this part of your life. And let's see, if this offered any kind of value to your life at all, it would be so helpful for me and my business if you could like this video and potentially share it with people you know that you think also might benefit from it. That'd be so helpful for me as I'm growing this part of my life and my business. And along those lines, I also recently launched a new offering that I'm calling Guidance Line. And it's an online advisory service for the soul is what I'm calling it. And it's ultimately just an advice line that people can book time with me in 20-minute increments. And you just book and pay, and you get sent a link, and we hop on the call, and we take a very fast kind of deep dive into what's going on and hold some space and at least get you connected into some kind of something to hold on to and something to at least get you to a point of having good feelings again. And then, from there and however much time we have together going into further, like, okay, and then what's the game plan? What's the ongoing game plan to get you from this point to this point? So I'm here for you. All right. Thank you again so much for your time. I appreciate it tremendously, and I hope this was helpful. Thank you. Take care.